Have you ever looked in the mirror and seen someone you don't recognize anymore? A stranger with your eyes, wearing your skin like an ill-fitting costume. The world broke you, didn't it? And now they have the audacity to call you broken. They've labeled you as bad, as wrong, as damaged. The black sheep, the problem child, the one who just doesn't fit in. And you've carried that weight until your spine curved under the pressure, until breathing itself became an act of rebellion. But here's the brutal truth they don't want you to face. Monsters aren't born. They're crafted. Meticulously. Painfully. One rejection, one judgment, one abandonment at a time. Welcome to the shadows, my brilliant, misunderstood friends. I see you there. Yes, you, the one they couldn't categorize, couldn't control, couldn't silence. The one who refused to shrink. They called that defiance. I call it survival. How many times did they make you apologize for taking up space, for speaking too loudly, for feeling too much, for being too you? You weren't always the villain in their story, were you? There was a time, maybe you can barely remember it now, when you tried so desperately to be what they wanted, when you contorted yourself into shapes that defied human anatomy, just trying to fit the mold they cast for you. I know that child, the one who kept trying, the one who believed if they just worked harder, smiled bigger, achieved more, disappeared better, then maybe, just maybe, they'd earn the love that should have been freely given. But it was never enough, was it? No matter how many pieces of yourself you sacrificed at their altar of approval. So they labeled you difficult, oversensitive, dramatic, too much, not enough, a disappointment, a failure. And here's the part they don't talk about. How those words became knives that carved you from the inside out. How those judgments became the voice in your head that follows you into empty rooms. How those rejections became the foundation upon which you built your walls. They're scared of you now, of your rage, your power, your refusal to play pretend anymore. They call it scary. I call it magnificent. Because you, my extraordinary friend, did something they couldn't anticipate. You survived. You alchemized pain into power, and nothing terrifies the comfortable quite like someone who has nothing left to lose. Let me tell you what they did to you, what they do to all of us who don't fit their precious mold. First, they isolated you, remember? The lunch tables that suddenly filled up when you approached. The inside jokes you were always outside of. The subtle shift in conversation when you entered a room. Then they pathologized your perfectly normal reactions to abnormal treatment. Your anger became behavioral issues. Your sadness became attention-seeking. Your unique way of seeing the world became difficult or strange. They took your boundaries and called them defiance. They took your passion and labeled it disruption. They took your sensitivity and mocked it as weakness. And when you finally, inevitably, shattered under the weight of it all, when you lashed out or shut down or escaped however you could, they pointed and said, "See? We told you something was wrong with them." How perfectly, brutally convenient. The system isn't broken, my friend. It's functioning exactly as designed. To crush uniqueness, to punish difference, to manufacture compliance through fear and shame and rejection. And they have the audacity, the breathtaking, stunning audacity, to act surprised when you stop playing by their rules, when you refuse to smile at those who harmed you, when you decline to forgive what hasn't been acknowledged, when you reject the game entirely. They made you a stranger to yourself, and now they're offended that you don't recognize them as family. When was the last time someone truly saw you? Not the mask you wear, not the role you play, not the version of you that makes others comfortable, but the real you, With all your glorious complexity, your beautiful rage, your justified pain, they're terrified of your depth, your intensity, your refusal to pretend. In a world of carefully curated personas and strategic vulnerability, your raw authenticity is revolutionary, dangerous. Because once you stopped performing humanity and started embodying it, with all its mess and fury and inconvenient emotions, you held up a mirror they couldn't bear to look into. Your darkness reminds them of their own. Your willingness to speak the unspeakable threatens their carefully constructed denial. Your pain exposes the harm they've caused or ignored or benefited from. And so they called you monster. Difficult, toxic, crazy, too much. Those labels were never about you. They were their shields against the truth you represent. And here's the secret they don't want you to know. Their opinion of you is none of your business. Their inability to handle your truth is not your responsibility to manage. You were never too much. They were simply not enough. Not brave enough. Not honest enough. Not real enough to meet you where you actually live. Let me tell you about the exquisite irony of your situation. First, they hurt you. Through neglect or active cruelty or casual indifference, they hurt you. They taught you that your feelings don't matter, that your boundaries won't be respected, that your needs come last if they're considered at all. Then, when you developed the entirely reasonable protective responses to that treatment, the walls, the distrust, the hypervigilance, the refusal to be vulnerable, they use those very responses as evidence that something is wrong with you. Why can't you just trust people? Why are you so defensive all the time? Why do you always expect the worst? They break your wings and then mock you for not flying. How many times have you been told you're too sensitive when you're actually responding normally to abnormal treatment? How many times have you been made to feel crazy for having a perfectly reasonable reaction to unreasonable circumstances? How many times have you apologized for the crime of being human in a world that demanded you be a robot? I see the exhaustion in your eyes. I recognize the weight on your shoulders. I honor the battlefield of your mind, where you fought wars others can't imagine, against enemies they'll never see. Let me tell you a secret they don't want you to know. Your darkness is sacred. That rage you feel, it's the part of you that knows you deserved better. That grief that overwhelms you, it's love with nowhere to go. That numbness that scares you, it's your mind's brilliant strategy for survival when feeling would have destroyed you. They tried to pathologize your pain, to medicalize your misery, to convince you that your very natural responses to trauma are symptoms of your brokenness rather than evidence of your humanity. And maybe the most tragic part, you believed them, at least for a while. You internalized their judgment, adopted their pathologizing language, started seeing yourself through their distorted lens. I'm too sensitive. I'm overreacting. I'm the problem. No, 1,000 times no. You were a child who needed protection and received abandonment instead. You were a person who needed compassion and received criticism instead. You were a soul who needed connection and received conditional acceptance instead. Your so-called issues aren't character flaws. They're war wounds, battle scars, evidence of what you've survived while those who judge you have been safely watching from the sidelines. So where does this leave you? Standing in the wreckage of everything you thought you knew, everything you were told to be, everything you believed about yourself. It leaves you free, free to rewrite the narrative they forced upon you, free to reclaim the parts of yourself you were told to amputate, free to define your own worth outside their narrow metrics of value. This is your rebirth, your resurrection, your reclamation of everything they tried to take from you. And let me be clear, This isn't about becoming what they fear. It's not about embracing destruction or cruelty as revenge. It's about something far more revolutionary, radical authenticity. It's about looking at every piece of yourself, the beautiful and the broken, the light and the shadow, and refusing to disown any of it. Your sensitivity? It's also your empathy, your intensity. It's also your passion, your anger. It's also your self-respect, your solitude. It's also your self-sufficiency. The very qualities they try to shame out of you are your superpowers, your gifts, your unique contribution to a world desperately in need of truth-tellers and barrier breakers and norm challengers. I'm not saying the path forward is easy. Reclaiming yourself rarely is. There will be days when their voices still echo louder than your own, when the old programming runs on autopilot, when you find yourself shrinking to make others comfortable just out of habit. But you'll catch yourself faster each time. You'll remember who you really are. You'll stand tall again. I see you there, behind your screen. The one they tried to extinguish. The one they couldn't break, though God knows they tried. Look at you, still here, still breathing, still fighting, still beautifully, defiantly alive, despite everything designed to crush your spirit. That's not weakness. That's not brokenness. That's fucking magnificent. You've survived what would have destroyed others. You've kept your heart beating when they gave you every reason to let it stop. You've preserved your capacity for joy and love and hope when they did everything to snuff it out. Do you have any idea how extraordinary that makes you? They called you monster because they couldn't comprehend your power. They labeled you broken because they feared your wholeness. They rejected your truth because it threatened their lies. None of that defines you. None of that is you. You are not what happened to you. You are not what they called you. You are vast, complex, sacred, worthy of reverence, not reduction. And here's the truth that will set you free. Their approval was always too small a container for someone like you. Their acceptance was always too conditional, too fragile to hold your magnitude. You weren't meant to fit in. You were meant to break molds, challenge systems, speak truths, create change. The very qualities they tried to extinguish in you are precisely what this broken world needs most. Before I leave you today, I want you to remember something essential. Your pain is real, valid, worthy of acknowledgement, but it is not the entirety of who you are. Your trauma has shaped you, but it does not define you. Your wounds have marked you, but they are not your identity. You are so much more than what was done to you, the parts of you they tried to destroy. Those are exactly the parts the world needs most right now. Your fierce authenticity, your radical honesty, your refusal to accept what should never be accepted, your courage to name what others pretend not to see. In a world of careful facades and strategic personas, your realness is revolutionary. So take up space, speak your truth, feel your feelings, all of them, even the messy ones, even the uncomfortable ones, even the ones they told you were wrong to have. Let yourself be seen, not the sanitized, acceptable, palatable version of you, the real you, with all your glorious complexity, all your beautiful contradictions, all your magnificent power. You are not a monster. You never were. You are a masterpiece that conventional minds couldn't comprehend, a symphony too complex for simple ears, a poem too profound for casual readers. And those who called you monster, they simply lacked the capacity to recognize greatness when it stood before them. If this message resonated with you today, hit that subscribe button. Share this with someone else who's been mislabeled, misunderstood, made to feel like there's something wrong with them for simply being human in an inhuman world. Leave a comment sharing your story. How you reclaimed yourself after they tried to convince you that you were the problem. Remember, they think you're bad, but monsters are created, and you, my extraordinary friend, are not what they created. You are what you salvaged from the wreckage. You are what you rebuilt for us on the ashes. You are what flourished despite the drought, and that makes you not a monster but a miracle.